Hey guys, in today's interview, I will talk to Catarina Oliveira, who is a personal trainer, a creative consultant, and a creative director of wellness based in Berlin. As a personal trainer, she is training some of the biggest artists of the electronic music world. As a consultant, she is working with brands like Adidas, and she's going to start her first own wellness brand later this year. In our conversation today, we will talk about many topics, for example, about Katarina's holistic approach towards health, about how you can biohack your sleep, and about how you can use the compound effect for increasing your health and your overall satisfaction in life. Welcome, Katarina, to today's interview, where we will talk about mental and physical health and your work, because you work with like artists around those topics. And what role does play art in your life?
Thank you, George. Firstly, thank you so much for having me here. I'm actually really excited to have this conversation, especially because mental health and wellness are so intertwined and they're such big topics right now. So I'm really happy that you are delving more into these kind of topics. So your question was, what role does art play in my life? I mean, it is it is a funny thing because I'm not personally in the art industry, as some people would say, but I do think that there is a lot of artistic and creative. There's a huge artistic and creative necessity in the healing, in the world of the healing arts. There's a lot of knowledge, and there's a lot of curiosity, and there's a lot of creativity and constellations of treatments that you need to have a sort of almost like artistic or creative approach when you going down the path of optimizing your own health, or in my case, my client's health, my friend's health, and there's just a lot that goes into taking care of one's body. I do live in Berlin, and being in this sort of industry of the healing arts, I do have a lot of clients that are relating to the art industry, mostly the music industry, because it's Berlin. So in a way, I also relate to it because I'm just surrounded by it. So I do live in a household where music is a really, really big part of it. And my clients, my friends, my clients that are my friends are also part of what brings so much art into my life, And I think there's also lots of ways you can look at art. I think obviously you can consider a painting, a track, a song, art, but you can also consider, the body. I think the body is the ultimate masterpiece, I think, when, for example, I was actually reading a book that I really enjoyed, and it was called Breath, and it's basically about the art of breathing. So I guess you could also, claim these sort of modalities: breathing, moving, eating, thinking, behaving, as part of, in a way, art,
Yeah, right. When you said like that, you consider like physical movement and the body as a piece of art, I had to think about Da Vinci, who based a lot of his art exactly on this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. I actually read another book. If you can't tell by now, I'm definitely a big reader. I read another book that was called the spark in the machine. And it's a lot about traditional Chinese medicine, but it's also it does talk a lot about Da Vinci's work and how his artistic approach brought so much knowledge to the medicinal world.
Oh, it's fantastic. I think we will also link to all the books that we mentioned in this talk in the session notes or in the description under the video. So yeah, you will find all the books and you don't have to Google it right now while listening. And Catarina, can you tell us a little bit more about your work and how you support mainly artists or musicians in their health?
Okay, so to give you a little bit of context, so to start from the beginning, I do come from a sports science background. And I dabbled a lot in different modalities within this sort of sports science background in the realm of health and wellness, from boxing to cupping, from high intensity training to things like qigong. Okay. But everything started when I was living in London. And that's where I got all my studies and certification. And this was when I was around 21, 22. And that's when I started my career as well in this industry. A few years later, I then moved to Berlin after I started practicing especially certain specific modalities such as boxing or indoor cycling or certain types of yoga as well. And when I moved to Berlin, that's when my career as a personal trainer started. Mm-hmm. I mean, my approach to wellness, it's very holistic. I mean, even though this is a very trendy term right now, but it's very immersive. It's very 360. Okay, so when I look at wellness, it's from this vitality, longevity, essentialism sort of approach, rather than a very superficial and aesthetics type of perspective. But I do think that the fact that I look at movement and nutrition and the body in that sort of like whole spectrum did bring me a lot of clients. So basically when I moved to Berlin and I started personal training, I obviously got, into I just got clients from the music industry because, it's Berlin. So everyone and their mother are in the music industry. Sure. And basically, I actually did not have to do any sort of advertising or any sort of like constant work to get clients, because I would just get clients from word of mouth, Awesome. So, simply it would be like, for example, one client would start looking great, and then they would, looking great is also a consequence, standing great, looking great, feeling great. And this would show, and they would meet another friend when they were doing a gig, and they would be like, what happened? And it was like, oh, I got this trainer, and she really helped me get to this point, So that's always how I got more and more and more clients, which happened to be in the art industry. Yep. And it was always sort of that way. Then I started moving a little bit into the world of boutique fitness. And boutique fitness is a little bit different than corporate fitness. And boutique fitness really prides itself on the fact that as amazing customer service or as amazing establishments, or is a very polished Californian sort of approach to fitness. and I got into that sort of world, which, to be honest, I do find fascinating. It's like the Gwyneth Paltrow approach of fitness, you know.
Yeah.
And I started doing teaching boxing, and I started teaching high intensity interval training. I started teaching indoor cycling as well. And again, in a city like Berlin, it just happens that your clients or the people that are punching right in front of you, or the people that are riding their bike right in front of you, were also playing 2 nights ago somewhere around the world, you know? Yeah, so wait, I'm digressing. What was your question? So, how I support artists in their health.
Yeah.
I mean, also, I believe that like where your focus goes, your energy goes to. So the fact that I was, especially with my first clients, the fact that I was focusing so much on their postural imbalances, their biomechanics, their disarrangements, really brought me onto a world that people kind of share these issues, you know. So, for example, imagine. I mean, I think I told you this story before, but I had a client, for example, he was playing at Coachella, and after he played Coachella, he messaged me, and he was like, Catarina, seriously, this was amazing. My posture has never been this good. All I kept thinking about was engage your core, suck your belly button in, stand up straight, roll your shoulders to the back. And this is something that client then told another friend that was also in the music industry, that brought me, you know, more clients.
So a lot of organic growth. So very organic development.
Yes, yeah, it's a very organic type of growth, for sure. I mean, I do think that, yeah, everything in your life should come from a very organic type of growth. I mean, at least I try. Yeah, so I mean, yeah, it was basically like that. How I started working with mostly people in this industry. And I mean, I'm forever grateful, because my clients are also my friends. And even though I'm not a person that goes out to gigs or to parties and goes out to see my clients play, I'm still their biggest cheerleader, you know? And I mean, I do see my clients, some of them, I do see them more than I see my friends. So, I mean, I see some clients 4 to 5 times a week. So, I mean, that's a lot. And we're talking about 1 to 2 hour sessions. And it's not just the work that goes in the session, it's also the work that goes out of the session. Because, I mean, of course, what is 1 hour of the day? What about the other 23 hours? What are you doing? And this is something that I will always address. Is like that. Imagine me and you and I, we have a session, and 3 hours later, I'm gonna message you asking you, how are you feeling? What did you have post workout? How are the legs feeling, or the upper body feeling? Please sleep well tonight. You know, all these things that I just try to address, you know, from this more holistic, sort of rounded approach, to fitness.
And what would you say, what are like the parts of this holistic approach? So you mentioned physical exercise, you mentioned sleep and nutrition.
Mm-hmm.
Is there more for you that belongs to this holistic?
Yeah. I do think that there's a lot that goes into it, because first, I do believe that you have 3 homes. You have your body, you have your mind, and you have the earth. And then you need to take care of all of them, you know? And I do think that, especially now, we live in a society that glorifies the body so much. And it's all about these pushing the body to the limit, in a way, for just superficial matters, that we often forget about the mind. And I think, I mean, your mind is always eavesdropping on your thoughts, so it's not just about what you consume in the sense of what you put in your mouth, but it's also about what you consume through these two vehicles. And so I do think what you're seeing is very important, what you're experiencing is very important, what you're hearing is very important, and what you're thinking.
Yeah.
I mean, I do not believe that we are our thoughts. I believe that our thoughts are like a conditioning of, our life. But I don't think that people have that realization. And what happens a lot of the times is that we allow these sort of messages that we're telling ourselves I'm not talking about just looking at yourself in the mirror and saying something to yourself. I'm also talking about things like, oh, I want to drink this glass of wine, or I want to eat this slice of pizza. I think people don't. Sometimes you need to take a step back to understand where is that thought coming from. So I do think that when you looking into wellness and a holistic approach to the whole spectrum, then you should address all these manners. So definitely the mind, it's essential. Nutrition is essential. Everybody knows you cannot outrun a bad diet, and we are here for the long game. We are here to last a long time, and food is essential for that. Body, of course, movement is key, but then that's my biggest pet peeve: sleep. I don't think people understand how important sleep is. You do, because you do have your Oura ring on. So you definitely do, otherwise your Oura ring will not be happy. But sleep is essential. And for example, we talked about this, the World Health Organization claimed that sleep is a potential carcinogenic. That is massive. People, again, this society glorifies the lack of sleep. This society is like, oh, I didn't sleep last night, I just came straight here. And you're like, dude, that's really not cool.
Especially the electronic music world glorifies it too.
Yeah, it's massive. I don't go to parties, because of a lot of things, but the lack of sleep is just a no-no for me. The fact that if you stay up all night, that's going to take you a week to recover from that. A week. That is massive, The fact that if you skip a night of sleep, your ghrelin, your leptin goes like your insulin, your blood sugar, your cortisol,
the whole body is like
the whole body is just freaking out. And that is a sign, that is a sign that something is not right. Also something else that it's super, super important, breathing, that I don't think people actually know how to breathe, So many times you will see, we are living through a pandemic right now, but there's another pandemic in the background. That is the fact that people don't actually know how to breathe. The fact that it seems like we always in this constant state of hyper vigilance, hyper awareness, that we just have these really shallow breaths with our rib cage. No, your breath shouldn't come from here. Your breath should come from here, from your diaphragm. Okay. And if you look at a baby sleeping, you will see how the belly expands, and somewhere along the way we lost that,
Sure.
And I thought that evolution should go like this, but it feels like evolution is going like this, maybe it's a bit harsh, but maybe it's a statement.
A lot of things. I just had my first singing lessons, and I discovered breathing on a whole new.
Oh my God, yes. So you'll definitely enjoy this book, Breath by James Nestor.
Is it a black cover?
No, it's a yellow cover.
Oh, okay.
It actually came out last year. It came out last year.
Just bought a book on breath. I will check. Maybe it's the same one, but
maybe it has a different cover. Could be as well.
Nice. Yeah, I also think that's really important to see life from a holistic point of view. That's also how I see it in my coachings. It doesn't make sense to just focus on one area in life and sacrifice all other areas for this one area. For example, for your career.
Exactly. That is really, really huge. There's that Emerson thing, the cause and effect, there's always a cause and effect, always. Mm-hmm. If you choose to focus on one thing, you will lack somewhere else. And if you choose, for example, to skip one night and go whatever, there will be an effect. And it will be a week-long effect, and it will not be a fun effect.
I mean, since a lot of your clients are like DJs and performers, and that's like sleep deprivation is kind of part of the job. How do you support them in this? Did you find out any ways how to hack this a little bit?
It's really funny to talk about that, because sometimes I do think my clients get a little bit scared, and like every time they come for a session, I'm like, how did you sleep? And she's like, why does she care? Why does she want to know how I slept? But I think that is so important. And I mean, it will tell me everything, because if you didn't sleep well, I can already tell that your performance will not be as good as it would be if you had slept proper full 8 hours of sleep. I mean, also, you will show in your heart rate variability. And of course, that's not it's not like I'm going to see my clients and I'm going to be like, let me check your HRV. But I mean, sometimes I ask, sometimes I'm like, can we just look at your HRV? Can we just have a quick look? Or you didn't sleep, can we have a quick look at your blood sugar? And some clients are like, no, I really don't need needles right now. But some other clients are like, okay, let's go. Let's do it. Give me the prick. I think first and foremost is creating the awareness, because a lot of people don't actually know the effects of no sleep. Okay. Yeah. And I think with no sleep also comes the conversation of stimulants, which can also be a way of hacking the fact that you didn't sleep. But then it does get into a very tricky place, because, caffeine is not ideal, here in this topic. Like, your cortisol is through the roof, your adrenaline as well is going a little bit crazy. Caffeine is actually not going to help. Yeah, it's going to mask for sure. And so basically we have this compound that is released from the moment that we wake up that is called adenosine. Mm-hmm. And that's basically, that builds up throughout the day, and that's what creates that sleepiness, towards the night. And there's two things that sort of stop or empty that tank, and it's sleep and stimulants. So something like a coffee. And imagine you wake up at 8 a.m., let's say, and you start building up that adenosine stores, and then you nap, you empty them. Or you have a coffee and you either empty them or pause that release. And caffeine as a bioavailability life in the body, that's about 12 hours. So if you have your coffee at noon, you'll still have it in your system at midnight. And that is also something that people are not aware. And it doesn't matter if you are a fast metabolizer, a slow metabolizer. It's a fact, it will be in your body for the next 12 hours. So, here you have to pick and choose. What do you want? A good night of sleep, or a quick fix, quick stimulant? But basically, when I talk to my clients about the fact that they are exposed to this sleep deficiency quite often, It's more about addressing the inflammation and the consequences. And so, I mean, I do look at a wellness from a very preventive sort of approach rather than the reactive. But sometimes you can be preventive, like you can try to prevent it from happening, but sometimes it will happen. It has to happen because, you know, everybody has to pay rent. But then it's how about we react to it. So there is quite a lot of compounds that can be used in order to tackle the sleep deprivation. And those are obviously compounds that will help with a antiphlogistic sort of approach to the body, or an anxiolytic or a sedative, you know, something that brings down that fight or flight sort of central nervous system response. Everybody's different though, so it is something that it's all a lot about trial and error. Imagine some people will do great on a concoction such as kava root and reishi, or no, let's not add reishi just yet. Imagine a concoction like kava root, passion flower, valerian extract, which is an incredibly amazing anxiolytic and sedative. But some people will do great with something like reishi, which is nature's ibuprofen, you know? So it is about sort of trying to find what works best for the clients, and then also addressing all the other inflammation or noise that is coming from other places, you know? So something that is also very tricky to address with the lack of no sleep, because it goes hand in hand when you are touring, something like EMF, electromagnetic fields, that it's huge, you know? It's something that I do think that you should try to reduce in your life. So phones, you know, try to sleep with your phone on airplane mode. Try not to be close to the Wi-Fi at all. Laptops as well. Laptop on your lap is just a no, you know. Planes. I mean, planes are like huge when it comes to electromagnetic fields. There's not much you can do, but there's little things that you can do. Some
like
people
sitting
are
in the back.
Sitting in the back of a plane. I don't think some people. Yeah, I think if you like your first class, if you like your business class, that's a bit tricky. But I mean, it's also, you know, a way of addressing that. Also, when we are talking about sleep deprivation, a consequence of that is it's going to be your nutrition. You know, what you're going to be putting in your body. Because, I mean, there is a little, like I was actually talking about this to a client because he was traveling, and he was telling me exactly this, that basically because of the lack of sleep, I warned him. I was like, look, what's going to happen here is that your ghrelin, which is your hunger hormone, is going to go through the roof. Okay? And that is just a biological response. And your leptin, your satiety hormone, it's going to be pretty much inexistent. So you're never going to feel satisfied. You're never going to feel full.
Just want to eat.
Exactly. I mean, imagine you didn't sleep, so you lack energy. And your body needs a quick fix of energy. So what is your body going to make you crave? You know, your body is not going to make you crave exercise. Your body is going to make you carbohydrates, because that's the quickest source of energy.
Airport food.
Yeah. You know, like, can you imagine? Like, I always tell them, like, do not feel bad about the fact that you didn't sleep and then you caved in and you had, you know, a burger or a Subway or something that is not aligned with your goals in the airport, because that will happen, and that's not on you. That's just biological, you know.
Yeah.
But then it's also about knowing, preparing that will happen, and taking a stance or taking action. Okay, so obviously, I mean, you know this, you know, with your partner as well. So, for example, she would have prepared nuts or food, so she wouldn't even have to think if she could eat that food or not. It was straight away like, no, I don't need it because I have my own, So it is about, what is that saying? Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Isn't that? I think it is. Fail to prepare, prepare to fail. Yeah. So preparation, key. And I mean, everything that you can do to release that inflammation response in your body, that phlogistic response, amazing. Just try to eat all your antioxidants. Just try to eat your dark leafy greens, your blueberries, your resveratrol, and and try to sleep properly as much as you can. It's not like sleeping is not like a bank. I think a lot of people think that, I didn't really sleep last night, but now I'm going to sleep for like 20 hours. No, it doesn't work that way. It just does not work like it's not like a credit, it's not like you borrow some money from them, but then you replace it. No, not at all. But as long as you can release that inflammation with lots of different ways, EMFs, movement, food, meditation, I think you'll be going down a good path.
The way I understand it, that one thing that happens when you sleep deprivation is that inflammation in your body goes up, and then there are ways to bring the inflammation down, or like to handle it. Like, as you said, exercising, certain type of foods, meditation, relaxation techniques, and so on. And when you spoke about compounds, you referred to adaptogens. Is this right?
Adaptogens are one of them, because so basically your body is constantly trying to create this balance, and this balance is called homeostasis, and that's what your body thrives off, and that's where your body wants to be. And obviously adaptogens allow you that. You are feeling too hyper, just down some reishi and it will bring you back to baseline. You feeling too low, maybe let's go with some rhodiola or some Siberian ginseng, and that will help you. But those are some of the compounds you have. Something like resveratrol that we talked about, something like ascorbic acid. Ascorbic acid is something that everybody knows about, which is vitamin C, massive. And then there's a whole bunch of sort of tonics and medicinal plants that wouldn't be called adaptogens, for example, even though I am super, super big on adaptogens. But there's a whole array of things, For example, also, when you look at non-allopathic medicine, when you look at Eastern medicine, such as traditional Chinese medicine or Ayurveda, Indian medicine, they do have a whole constellation, a whole galaxy of herbs that target a bunch of different issues or deficiencies or stagnation. And when we talk, for example, when I said about this homeostasis, where this level, this baseline that your body always wants to be at, this is the same principle in TCM, in traditional Chinese medicine, because in TCM you have yin and yang. You need both, you need yin, you need yang. So yin is night, yang is day, It's always like in life, you can't have the sun without the moon. You need both. And in TCM, there is a whole bunch of amazing compounds that you can use in order to take care of this sort of equilibrium. And in traditional Chinese medicine, everybody has heard about the qi, right? So the qi is like the energy that runs through your veins. I guess like in allopathic Western medicine, we would call it the lymph, perhaps. Or, in scientific terms, they would call it the lymph. But in TCM, they call it the qi. But then you have something that it's way deeper than the qi, that it's called the jing. And the jing is stored in your kidneys.
Yeah.
So the jing is something that it's incredibly hard to deplete because this is a prenatal force. This is the life force. This is something that you are born with. That comes from your parents, and it's something that sort of builds up your entire life. So as you can imagine, something that has such a solid foundation is incredibly hard to bring down. But the problem is that nowadays it feels like we are actively trying to deplete our jing all the time. And in TCM, you have a whole array of herbs that, for example, their category are herbs that tonify jing, like herbs for that with a kidney meridian affinity, or herbs that agree with water element, because so in traditional Chinese medicine you have water, you have metal, wood, fire, earth, and water element is the element of the bladder and the kidneys. So it's actually the element we are living right now in winter. And so if you do stock up on those compounds that really, really help you look out for your kidneys and look out for your jing, that will have a major impact on the inflammation and the balance in your body.
Awesome.
I mean, I'm even drinking some now. Like,
what are you drinking right now?
It's a little, the light is not so good anymore, but it's a little concoction.
Yeah.
So what we have here, marshmallow root.
Mm-hmm.
We have some Chinese yam.
Yeah.
We have some lotus seeds. I always like to add a little bit of a dazao, which is a jujube date. And we have orange peel, which is chenpi. Yeah.
Where are you getting all this stuff? Do you have a tip if somebody wants to, first of all, learn more about this? Do you have a book recommendation? And do you have a recommendation where to get the actual ingredients?
Yeah, I mean, I do read a lot about traditional Chinese medicine. My favorite 2 books about traditional Chinese medicine, which do talk a lot about these, is the one I mentioned earlier, that was The Spark in the Machine, that also talks about Leonardo da Vinci's work. Right. I mean, it's like a essential book in TCM. And what is it called? Heaven on Earth. I will just send it to you so we can put it on the show notes. So these are huge when it comes to traditional Chinese medicine. But when it comes to sort of optimizing and biohacking your health and trying to sort of stay away from the effects that will come from certain decisions that are not so great, perhaps the Dave Asprey's books are really good. So I think that my favorite 2 for adaptogens and for compounds that help nootropics could be Game Changers and Headstrong. Headstrong, I personally loved it. Dave Asprey, I mean, he loves.
Like the guy from Bulletproof Coffee.
Yes, he's the guy from Bulletproof, and I mean, he's exactly Bulletproof. I mean, if you go to his to the Bulletproof labs in LA, it is like, oh my god! You sit down and there's just all these like amazing things that you can do to biohack your body. I remember sitting there and I was like, oh, can I get a stem cell injection? I mean, it's crazy. You go from something as simple as like cryotherapy to infrared sauna to stem cells. That is like.
Wow.
Anyway, and that is kind of like a cafe. You have a menu, you pick and choose. Let's go, let's do it. But yeah, no, Dave Asprey also has a huge. I mean, his story is crazy, and because he had mold toxicity and how we actually healed all these health issues through nutrition, through exercise, and through all of these through this array of compounds. I mean, he is also a person that goes a bit deeper. I mean, I do choose to stick to my medicinal plants and all these elements that have been used for years and centuries. But it can go a little bit more into, things that I often use for ADHD and things like that, which is not my personal, I would not go that way, but I mean, each to their own. So I really like the books of Dave Asprey and these 2 TCM books I talked about. Something that I always recommend all my clients to read, it's The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, because I mean, I think if you are a person, you should read that book, I think that book, right, is like, if you have a mind, you should read that book. Because I mean, that book just really brings you, just sort of resets you in a way, and brings you back down to that baseline, and really gives you the awareness that all of these is sort of a creation of these, So I do think that book is quite essential read. What other books are really, I mean, obviously the work of Ben Greenfield. You have Boundless, you have Beyond Training, and you also have his podcasts, which are just mind-blowing.
Great, and also you did this course on Mind Valley, which I took, and I really liked it.
Oh yeah, we talked about it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that. I mean, so many available sources. Also, the work of Stephen Gundry, which it is a bit polemic, but there is a lot of interesting things there, such as the plant paradox or the longevity paradox. The work of the books, I mean, these are books, we can put them in the show notes. The books from David Perlmutter, he has these Grain Brain, which, I mean, I think it is a really good read, especially because people are not aware, of the effects of the things we are putting into our mouth. And I mean, when we talk about these compounds to fight off inflammation, of course, we can talk, about all the reishi, all the Siberian ginseng, about the olethru, about the rhodiola rosea, but it comes down to what you put into your mouth 24/7, and it's way more important for you to look at what's on your plate than, I mean, these little potions, that I personally make and love, are just a little add-on.
Yeah. They are not replacing nutrition or exercising. And I mean, from my personal experience, one of the biggest factors for inflammation is our thinking, and the way we attach to our thoughts.
Yeah.
Because the way we are attached to our thoughts influences how often the stress response of fight and flight response is triggered, and this determines, for example, how much cortisol or blood sugar or other stress hormones are in our system, and this determines again or causes a lot of inflammations and disbalances in the body. So I think that's, besides the physical world, so to speak, that the mental world is super, super, super important in order to also stay in a physical balance. And I mean, it's a fact that most of the illnesses that like your, what's the English word for your go-to doctor?
Your GP?
Yeah, exactly. Your GP. Most illnesses that they treat are actually like psychosomatic illnesses.
Yeah.
Psychosomatic starts here in your brain.
Yeah.
The way you use your brain.
100%. I mean, that's the thing. Psychosomatic, it's it's basically an interdisciplinary sort of medical field, right? So it does explore as well the relationship between these entities. And I mean, basically it's two sides of the same coin, I guess. Or is this same idea of, you can't have the sun without the moon. It's both. It's a cause and effect sort of approach. Or I mean, what is the other saying? Is that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right?
Yeah.
And it applies to this as well, because I mean, you can think your issues into existence. You can also speak and think and project an array of amazing things into existence, but you can also manifest a lot by the message, by the software that you're running through here, because it's almost like your body is the supercomputer and your mind is just trying to run this software. And I mean, after a while, that software will start running, even if it wasn't the thing that you wanted in the first place, but you just gave it so much space. It's like almost like, when you hear a song, and the song, let's say it's a very bad song, but you hear it once and twice, a third time, it's in your mind. It just doesn't leave. It's just there, and it's exactly the same thing. I think that basically you have to choose. You have to be aware that you need to choose what you allow volume in your life, which song you allow volume in your mind. I mean, and this can be a negative thought that you are having. This can be, for example, can be toxicity, like a toxic person in your life. This can be the fact that, for example, sometimes people eat something and they're like, I shouldn't eat this, I shouldn't have eaten this. Like my clients or my friends will say to me, and I say, look, you ate it, it's fine, enjoy the fact that you ate it, because it's the fact that you're running that message constantly that is actually being detrimental to you. And it's like, these people that just like eat something that perhaps is not the healthiest foods, but they just enjoy it so much, and they have this like really healthy approach to life. It's the same way. It works that way. And then it's like one bad meal is not going to make you unhealthy, the same way one good meal is not going to make you healthy. One night of no sleep is not going to make you go a bit cuckoo, the same way that one night of good sleep is also not going to make you great. So it is this compound effect. It's basically what you do constantly. I mean, it's 100%. Like, right? It's the excellence. It's in the mundane. It's in the consistencies. One is in what you do.
Practicing.
Yeah.
100%. That's also one of the, for me, biggest secrets, so to speak, for high creative output, to put in some energy and attention every day. And it doesn't have to be 5 hours. 5 minutes every day is better than nothing.
100%. It's like, you want to become a runner? Go for a 5-minute run every day, You want to be able to play an instrument 5 minutes a day, every day. It's the compound effect of something. And I think it's just because we live in this society that glorifies results over the journey,
Process.
It's the issue stems from that, because you see someone that, for example, has had amazing success in the career, but what you don't see is all the years behind that this person was just grinding, constantly grinding, all the hard work that you perhaps would like to get to the stage of that person, but you are just not willing to do what it takes to get to the stage, So it is also about that. It's also about imagine when you see on the news, it's like, guy lost, or for example, these shows that will be on TV, person lost, I don't know, 100 kilograms. But so they focus so much on the issue, but they don't focus on all the work behind. They don't show the fact that this person spent countless hours, moving properly, being careful with nutrition, sleeping,
Absolutely. I think when we talk about consistency and persistence and doing certain things every day, for me it's about creating a lifestyle that as a side effect brings me to the places I want to go.
Yeah.
And the lifestyle, for example, could be focusing on nutrition and sleep and exercising every day, focusing on rehearsing an instrument every day, or producing music or writing, whatever somebody is doing as his profession or his art, and creating a life around this and with this. And then when you do this for a longer time, you will have all your goals as a side effect of that.
100%. It's something that I talk a lot about, especially, I notice it in myself because obviously coming from a sports science background, I have my mentality is sort of this athlete mentality, and there's a really interesting concept here, which is this instant gratification and this long-term big picture approach. Yeah. And I think that so many times it's just we pick instant gratification, this quick fix, just because, and we are not aware, it's almost like we are being myopic and we are not aware that in the big picture and in the long run, that is not bringing you closer to your goal at all. So sometimes you just gotta eat the frog, bite the bullet and just go. Just don't do that thing that you want to do right now, because that is a simple, that dopamine thirst, that people have, that really quick fix, that, and this is not just food. Of course, the easiest example is food, because it's something that happens to all of us every day. It's do I want to eat that slice of pizza, or do I want to eat those fries, or do I want to eat that chocolate? But this also happens during the day. It's just one more episode of this, or let me just sleep in instead of going for my run. This is purely instant gratification. The fact that you should be going outside and go and do your exercise, but no, you choose to sleep in because you just seek that dopamine. And yeah, in the short term, it's very nice, but it's just bringing you back. It's now, it's like taking steps back.
Yeah. It's like creating an uphill battle for yourself without knowing it.
That is 100% true. Yeah. Never thought of it that way, but yes, you were just making so much harder for yourself.
Yeah. That's something I realized for myself, that this is, for me, a part of mental well-being and mental health, because, in my understanding, all psychological phenomena like anxiety or psychosomatic things or depression or OCD and so on are actually telling you to slow down and to take care of yourself. It's like the pain that you feel when you put your hand on a hot stove and this pain wants to show you pull your hand back.
Yeah.
And on a psychological level, these things tell us, leave your thinking alone for a second. And when I got more sensitive to this, because I was like very unsensitive, and it needed like some panic attacks and shit to make me like focusing on that and making me more aware of it.
Mm-hmm.
But now I'm really sensitive, and I noticed that when I'm working too much, when I'm like have insecure thinking, or when I'm just like sitting too long on the computer and not moving, I start to crave like carbs, or I want to like check my Instagram and like get this instant dopamine hits.
Yeah.
And I think it's really great to notice this, because now I know this is like it's like check engine lights in your car, and when this go off, okay, that's actually a sign to close the laptop and to go out and have a walk around the block.
100%.
Or to meditate, or to take a nap and just to do a break. And then I don't need this quick fix anymore, and I don't need the crappy food or like Instagram or porn or all these things that are around there to get this instant dopamine hits.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I really believe that in so many ways, your body whispers before it screams. Your body gives you a lot of whispers.
That's a nice way to put it.
It is, and I think it's a lot about you being a good listener, you know? Especially like in so many ways, like I do enjoy to talk, but I do enjoy to just be quiet and just to quietly listen to people, because when you talk, you're not really saying anything new, because everything you're saying, already, but
yes,
in a way. But when you listen, that's when you learn. And when you sit and actually listen to your body, to all these little whispers that your body is giving you, these little signs, that is the most essential thing. I mean, and we are talking, for example, something like you were just saying, from when you sit too long, when you work too much, you notice this cause and effect sort of situation. But even things like your knee starting to bother you when you go for a run, okay, let's address this. It's going back to that holistic approach, to that preventative approach rather than reactive.
Yeah, it's like a picture I like to use is it's about going upstream. And there's like a funny story that like people are like living on a river, and somehow there are always like children in the river who are almost drowning in the afternoon, and they have to save these children all the time, and there are more and more children, and it's getting more and more work. And they try to create systems how to make this whole thing more efficient. And one of these people who live there has the idea to actually go upstream and find out why there are these children drowning in the river, and then he sees that there's a guy who throws the children into the river. And then he talks to him, and then he stops, and then they really solve the cause of the problem and not just the symptoms.
That's the thing. That's
a ridiculous story, but that's
it's a really good illustration of, for example, allopathic medicine, so Western medicine, and non-allopathic. Western medicine is very symptomatic. It's a lot about the symptom, about the addressing the symptom, which in a way ends up masking the symptom. And non-allopathic is a lot about the root cause of the issue. But this is also where I believe that creating these systems and rituals and habits, putting them in place for you is just essential, because when you do these, you just remove you remove the whole set of complicated and difficult sort of like almost fighters, in the sense that, for example, if you created a habit of exercise or the habit of eating well, you don't need to rely on motivation. You don't need to rely on willpower anymore. You don't need to go looking for your motivation in your like a draw anymore, because there's a habit in place. This is how it goes. And if you don't do it, it just doesn't feel right. Something feels off. The same way that if you don't brush your teeth before you go to bed, something feels oddier. So it is exactly the same principle. And I think that systems, habits are just essential.
100%. For me, it's I do this all the time, like creating habits and systems around everything I do, around business, around music, around coaching, and it just sets me up for success in a lot of ways. What they said, the system set me up for success.
Yeah, 100%.
And I think that's also a big misconception of a lot of artists, that they think that systems and habits are crushing their creativity. And from my experience and the experience of all my clients and all my coaches who focus on that, so that together are like thousands or 10,000 of people, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
Because, for example, if you always need to search for the files of your music that you wrote, this is crushing your creativity. Having a system in place that takes care of you finding all the files you need like immediately is actually enhancing your creativity, because you can really focus on the creative part and you don't waste time with like putting your things together.
100%. It's like you're optimizing, you're hacking your creativity.
Exactly.
But this is the thing. I think people, imagine these people that say that they don't want to create these rituals or these systems because they kill their creativity. But what people don't understand, that everybody has habits, everybody has rituals.
Everybody already has thousands of systems.
Oh my God, yeah.
Systems that don't really work for you.
And they don't realize that they are a system. They don't realize they are habits, and they don't realize the detriment actually they are bringing into their life. But the thing is, like, it for example, as well in TCM, you have anger and you have creativity. In traditional Chinese medicine, these are two sides of the coin. You literally, for you to be creative, you need a sort of anger, but you need this yin and yang balance. You need this homeostasis in between both. And it's just being aware that you can't have one without the other, Like, of course, you need to find which rituals work for you. Perhaps for me, what makes me a good coach for my clients is being able to wake up in the morning, have my adaptogenic tonics, and read through all the studies that seem interesting or have been published during the night. Perhaps that's my ritual. But someone else's ritual can literally be lying in bed looking at the ceiling. That can also be a ritual. And there is no good or bad. There is just a trial and error and trying to find what works for them.
Absolutely. I think the try and error part is really important, because a lot of people beat themselves up when it doesn't work, instead of just taking it as a feedback and trying something differently and do this as long as it works.
Yeah, certainly. It's like
a creative process.
It's just about perspective, isn't it? It's like failure equals opportunity. Failure equals learning. Like, it's just about understanding that, there's conditioning, that failure is a negative thing. But what if you change that conditioning and start having this approach of, it's almost like, protons and electrons. So proton is always a positive charge, electron is always a negative charge. Always be a proton, always have a positive charge, and it's about having this positive charge running through your mouth that, okay, I actually found an obstacle now. I went through a wall. I'm hitting the wall right now. But what am I learning for this? So I have to go back and find the other path. You know? Thank God that there's failures. Thank God there is obstacles, because otherwise we just keep going and end up nowhere.
100%, yeah. Yeah, and I think it's a lifelong process. For example, something I realized for me is that, for me, there's always something I want to learn and that I want to test out, no matter if it's in music or languages or instruments or coaching, or like, there's always something that I want to read or like do. And I realized that it would be helpful for me to create a system that lets me stop to do this early enough before I go to sleep, because if I don't do this, I will have a bad night of sleep, because I'm still like thinking about all these things.
Yes,
so
exactly.
that's just something I'm working on at the moment, or like creating a routine for that.
But that's you listening to those whispers of your body, and also you listening to your Oura ring.
Yeah, an Oura ring, by the way, is this, for people who don't know, it's like this ring, and it has like electronics in it, and it tracks your sleep and lets you know how your sleep was. And for me, that's really helpful, because it's a direct feedback, and I just can't ignore the numbers on the screen that tell me the sleep was great or the sleep was shit. And then I can think about, okay, why didn't I sleep well? And then that's something. And for me, something I found out, okay, I'm not winding down enough or long enough before I sleep. And then a lot of the times, especially if it's like very intense things, I keep on thinking about this the whole night, and that's not really relaxing.
But that's exactly where the term biohacking comes from, because I mean, biohacking is you hacking your own biology. And the amazing part about biohacking is that it's you against you. You are your own competition,
I would maybe say it's you for you.
Yeah, yes, you can say it's you for you. Yeah, 100%. But for example, when you wake up and you didn't have a good night of sleep, why didn't your past self help your future self here? But again, it can be trial and error, because, for example, there's this whole concept that you should create some sort of like vasodilation before you go to sleep. So something like a shower is great, supposedly, a lot of people find, because you need to decrease your core temperature in order to increase your extremities temperature in order to fall asleep properly. I mean, I'm sure everybody try to fall asleep with cold feet. That will take you a while, but for example, that really doesn't work for me, and that's also that I had to find through trial and error. I had to find that, for example, binaural beats work amazing for me, or not eating. I mean, the key things for me are definitely not eating 3 hours pre-sleep, a postprandial activity, so something post meal, it's great. Yeah, definitely. Low decrease like room temperature, so around 70 degrees, optimal. That's why it's so difficult to fall asleep in the summer, sometimes in those really warm nights. Everybody has experienced this, I'm sure. Obviously, light stimuli. I mean, you can see behind me, I have no, this is how it goes, when you go to sleep, you are not like a switch. Okay, let's sleep, let's go, done. No, you are a plane. You're gradually descending. You're gradually getting there. Right? And this is all part of it. Like creating this ambience, all these little cues that are now telling your body, look, it's time to sleep soon.
Yeah, true. Also, one reason why I love coaching is because my clients are very creative and a lot of, very genius in a lot of ways. And one of my clients told me that his new night ritual is like to light a candle and to be with this candle and to center himself and kind of give back the responsibility and the power to something that's bigger than himself, and then blow the candle and go to bed. And I thought it's super beautiful, and
There's
something I
actually
started to do and really enjoy.
it's very beautiful. There's actually a Buddhist ritual like that. So basically they have candles, and then they insert little brass pins on the candle, and as the candle burns, these brass pins fall down, so they are marking the passing of time, which is incredibly interesting, because it's also like, imagine you're just sitting there with this candle, and all of a sudden this brass pin falls down, and you're like, okay, it almost creates this awareness of your breathing and the time passing.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's a whole array of rituals and things that one can, I mean, I often really enjoy doing this thing where I take a bath. I really enjoy taking baths closer to perhaps like maybe 4 hours, 3 hours, close to bedtime.
Yeah.
And what I do is I open the drain then at the end, so the water can go down, and I just lie in the bath, with the water, and I just hear the sound of the water going through the drain. And you can almost visualize as if it's not just the water going down the drain, it's all of these negative charge, these like toxicity, this thought, this accumulation, that is also going down that drain.
100%. This is really nice too. And I mean, I have been reading on Kindles for many years.
Mm-hmm.
And I realized, one of the biggest things that are like bad for good sleep is like screens, and that's why I got like a lot of like physical books again.
Amazing, yeah.
It's called The Art of Dreaming.
Oh, so interesting. Oh, it's in German.
Very crazy.
My German, ich lerne Deutsch, aber ich spreche noch nicht sehr gut.
I have a look if there's an English translation.
Okay.
And just having a bunch of like actually physical books.
Okay, yeah.
That are easy to read and that are not hardcore facts science books, because that's keeping me awake.
That's but also like sleeping after reading a book, there's so many studies saying that's amazing, because it's also that really solidifies, the input.
Your subconsciousness keeps on working with it, right?
100%.
I love to listen to spiritual texts before I go to sleep, because I think it's like sinking in on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And I also can link that there's one of my favorite coaches is called Michael Neal, and he has written many great books, and he also has a podcast, and the podcast episodes are about 10 minutes long each, so short, and perfect to listen to before you go to bed, because it's very calming. It's very like
please link
very
these
spiritual.
Yeah,
really, really lovely. I'm sending it to you. I'm sure
I love to see.
will enjoy it too. And maybe as a last question, Catarina, what advice would you give to an artist who is struggling with their health? Where should they start? What should they do?
I think perhaps we have touched on a few.
Yeah, definitely.
Here, definitely, we have talked about this holistic approach to wellness, about looking at the whole machine. This thing of your body was first before it screams, it's huge,
100%,
like your body is almost like a human shell, like you need to understand what's happening inside and take action. And just so often you see people brushing off like an headache or an annoying pain here and there. And this is something that needs to be addressed, because people are not supposed to feel fatigued. They're not supposed to feel sluggish. They're not supposed to feel brain fog. This, and it's something that we normalize. I just have an headache. No, No, like let's address this. Let's find out why this headache is happening. Where is this stemming from? And as I told you that I dabble in so many different modalities, from, as I said, like from cupping to boxing, for example. With cupping, you see so much stagnation that is then manifested in a headache. You know, I had a client that he was playing a big festival, and right before he arrived, he messaged me. He said he played during the day, and he messaged me saying, "I have this huge headache. I have this huge headache. Doesn't stop." I was like, "Just come by. Let's do some cupping." And the colors, the coloration of the marks in some parts were such a severe sign of stagnation that I was like, "No wonder you have a headache." You know, this is something that needs to be addressed. But other advices are definitely movement. Movement is essential. I feel like people definitely need to honor the amazing body that they have. They should start slow. Never, like, this is a marathon, not a sprint. And the way, I mean, I think there's a quote of this: the way you eat a whale is one bite at a time. You know.
Yeah.
Like, you don't need to look at the whole staircase. Step by step, you'll get there.
Yeah.
Rely on rituals, rely on habits. You know, I think staying curious is, like, for example, you are definitely a very curious person, and I think that's really, really amazing, because that is also something that keeps you young. You know, that creates this neuroplasticity, this that brings new neural dendrites. You know, there's actually there was two really funny studies. One of them was by the BBC, and what they did is they put this group of 80-year-olds into this house that was furnished, and like it was like 40 years earlier, like they were again like 40 years old, you know, and all on TV was just stuff from that time, and the music playing on the radio, all these things. And then they instantly, like, they checked all their biomarkers, and everything was like so much better. It was as if they went back in time, you know. So definitely trying to keep young, you know. And what does that mean to be young? Means to move, you know, means to play, means to be curious, to dabble, to touch things, to do things for the first time, you know. Like when you ask people, like, what was the last thing that you did for the first time? They're like, can't believe, because I can't remember, because they're just so used to this pattern, they're just constantly following. I think that as well, like reading is so essential, because I mean, the more you know, the more that you know that you don't know anything, but it just creates this neuroplasticity, you know. It's essential, just keeps your brain alive. Sleeping is massive. I can't even, like, I think if someone put the benefits of sleep into a pill, if they manage to do that, they will be like the richest man in the world. They will have, I don't know, 1,000 times the fortune of Jeff Bezos, you know. Like, sleep is essential. That you need to go into REM sleep. You need to go into rapid eye movement sleep.
100%, yeah.
That's where you solidify. That's where you make sense of everything you've been through that day. And you need to also go through non-REM sleep. Food, also essential. Food is medicine, you know. Less of what's good, less of what's bad, but more of what makes you feel good. Less of aesthetics, less of superficial things, more vitality, more essentialism. I think especially in the wellness wellness industry, there's so much superficial content. Like everything is just like here, you know, everything, you know, being these statements that people just make on Instagram, or just this shallow information. Like, just be curious, go a little bit deeper, you know. It's not just aesthetics are a consequence. Okay, food is medicine. And yeah, be preventative rather than reactive.
Beautiful. Is there any advice that you hear often in your field that you think they should ignore?
I don't think I don't think that you should ignore advice, or I don't think you should ignore anything that happens in your life, anything that is said to you. I think you can learn a lot by any type of advice is given to you, even if it is by learning lots about the person that is saying it, even if it's just learning a lot about you because of the way you respond to that specific advice. What sort of emotions, what sort of thing is it triggering inside of you. Like, for instance, imagine so many times you hear this advice: don't quit, don't quit, don't quit. Okay, yes, there is a time and a place for that advice. There is you can tell, especially in my industry, for example, if I'm doing an exercise with a client, or even if I'm doing an exercise myself, and I just feel like your body can go on. It's just your mind, that is telling you can't any longer, and you feel like, oh, I want to quit, I want to quit. But if you quit earlier on an exercise, it's because you probably quit earlier on relationships, on your friendship, in your career, in your work life, But there's also a time and a place for you to stop, for you to quit. Because imagine something is not operating as well as it should. Okay, let's stop these. Let's look at it, let's address it. Almost like a Minority Report. You have the screen, you're like, okay, what's happening here? So I don't think ignoring advice would be a thing. It's more about paying attention to where is it coming from, what is creating inside of you. And there's also always like a way of growing, and I think like every single person is a master of sorts. Even the people that, imagine someone is rude to you on the street, like, still that person is a master of sorts, and that person came into your life to teach you something in a way. Perhaps it's to teach you how to be patient. Perhaps it's to pressure you into learning German because you live in Deutschland, so you should speak Deutsch, So that happens, but you need to look at the situation and address it.
Awesome. I love that. It's very deep. Nice.
Maybe a long answer, but yeah.
I think it's a great answer. I really like it. Because it's about listening and seeking to understand.
Yeah, 100%.
Nice. And Catarina, if somebody wants to find out more about you and your work, how can they do that? Where do they find you?
So, you can find more about me in there's a few ways, because I dabble in a few things. So there's definitely personal training, which you could then approach me through my email, which you'll put in the show notes, I believe.
Yeah.
You could just shoot me an email, Instagram. I'm also
Instagram
now.
handle? Do you know that? What's your Instagram handle?
Oh, it's just my name at Oliveira, so my surname and then Catarina, Oliveira Catarina.
Catarina with a K?
No, with a C.
Okay. I'm sorry.
So it's C, but actually, yeah, because it's not the German way. My name, Catarina, that's German, right?
Yeah.
That's how Germans pronounce my name. But my name is Catarina, so it's more subtle. So Catarina. I'm also now often, but I was just gonna say, location-wise, I'm the creative director of wellness in this upcoming project here in Berlin, so I'm always here. So you can also find me in the city.
Nice. And probably soon also through your own brand that you're creating.
Oh yeah, So now just a first-time co-founder and CEO for a brand that it's coming later this year, but very exciting.
Awesome. I will also update the show notes as soon as there are any links to that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, thank you so much for this super great conversation.
Thank you.
I learned a lot and have a lot of new inspiration, and I'm sure the people who listen and to watch to it as well.
Hope so.
And yeah, until the next episode.
Thank you so much, George. Thank you for doing this.